All right, continuing in section 7.4, we're going to be doing problems that combine all of the rules of exponents that we have just learned. So kind of a way of dealing with this is to kind of think about order of operations. Do things inside parentheses and then work toward the outside. Now, order of operations doesn't strictly apply, but that's kind of how I tell students to think about this. So in this one, what we want to do is we want to simplify each of these things, and then we'll use a product rule. So power rule first, x squared squared gives me x to the 2 times 2, which is x to the 4th, and then y to 1 times 2, which is y squared, and then that is going to get multiplied by x 1 times 4, which is x to the 4th, and then 2 times 4, which is 8, and so we have y to the 8th. And now what we see is a product rule. So we're going to copy the like base x, and we're going to add 4 and 4 in order to get the exponent on the x's. So x to the 8th. And then y, we're going to add 2 plus 8 in order to get its exponent 10. So we have x to the 8th and y to the 10th. And that will be our final answer on this particular problem. And then we're off to the next one. Now in the next problem, we have a negative number raised to an odd power, which is going to give us a negative number. So this is going to be a negative 8 to the 3rd power. And then multiplied by, again, a negative number raised to an odd power, which will give us a negative number, and that'll be 8 to the 5th power. Now we have a negative times a negative, which is going to give us a positive. And then we're going to add the exponents on the 8's, 3 plus 5, which is going to give us 8 to the 8th. And with that large of an exponent, I would never ask you to simplify it. But you could certainly do on your calculator 8 and then put in your power key, which either, if it's a real simple calculator, would look like that, or if you have a more complicated scientific calculator, would look like that, and then do the 8th power. So you'd enter in an 8, and then you'd press either this key, or you'd use this key, and then you put in an 8, and then you type your equivalent of an equal sign. And an equal sign on a simple calculator looks like an equal sign, and on a more complicated scientific calculator, it is an enter. All right, moving along to our next one. So this one says 3 halves quantity cubed. So that's 3 cubes, so 3 to the 3rd power over 2 cubed, 2 to the 3rd power, and that's multiplied by 3 to the 4th power, and I'm just going to put that over a 1. Well, in the numerator, therefore, I'm multiplying like bases 3, and so I'm going to add their exponents, 3 plus 4, which is 7. And then in the denominator, 2 cubed, I am going to actually multiply that out because that one is a small enough number that I know. So this is 3 to the 7th power over 8. And that's how I'm going to leave it because 3 to the 7th power is such a huge number. Right, moving down to the next one, we have something inside these parentheses that needs to be simplified using quotient rules, and then we're going to do the exponent on the outside. So we have a common factor of 3 and 9 and 5, so 3 divided by, 3 goes into 9 3 times, and 3 goes into 15 5 times, and then we're going to use the quotient rule on the like bases x, 2 minus 1, so I'm going to copy this down, 3 in the numerator and x to the 1st in the numerator. I've got a 5 in the denominator so far, and then we have a 5 minus 8, which is going to give us a negative 3, but y to the negative 3, remember, belongs in the denominator, so I'm going to write that y to the negative 3 as y to the 3rd power in the denominator. And now last but not least, I'm going to square this. Remember, everything in here gets squared, so 3 gets squared, 3 squared is 9, x gets squared, x to the 1 times 2, or x squared, and then 5 gets squared, 5 squared is 25, and then y cubed gets squared, so 3 times 2, which is 6, and so y to the 6th power, and that's going to be our final answer in that one too. And so we'll just go ahead and we'll box this answer here. All right, we'll do the next E, F, G, and H in the next video.